Yo, what's going on everyone? It's Trojan here presenting a uniquely based Total War 3 Kingdoms tier list. Discretion's advised. This is going to be based off of my own judgment and there is no reason for why someone should void a DLC based off of my opinion. Without further ado, let's get this started. We're going to start off with the faction DLC packs and then move into the campaign DLC packs. So, coming in for our first DLC pack, we have the Yellow Turban Rebellion. The Yellow Turban Rebellion was the first paid DLC to be released for Total War 3 Kingdoms. With the DLC pack, you get to play as 3 uniquely new Yellow Turban factions with their own unique game mechanics. The factions released are spread out throughout the entire map, almost, to really shape in how you want to expand. One of the really noticeable things you'll see in all of these DLC packs is that it all gravitates towards the northern part of the map, the most action and snowball potential being the northeastern part. Moving forwards, you get to play as He, Gongdu, and Huang Xiao. I definitely pronounced those names wrong, but this is CA's first DLC pack for 3 Kingdoms and it does show. Diplomacy is literally not an option for this DLC pack. You will almost never actually be able to expand your rebellion outwards since you are limited, and I do not enjoy the new research design format for the Yellow Turbans. On top of this, you get 3 different class hero types, being the Healer, Scholar, and Veteran. And after 2 years of playing this amazing game, I can still tell you I have absolutely zero idea what these classes do. You get a completely new roster that can even get as strong as late game Imperial armies with just a bow staff, but other than that, that's not a lot to show off for this DLC. It's the first one out and it's bland, and it just isn't worth the money in my opinion. Especially with the following releases of other DLC packs, the Yellow Turbans are roughly behind, and they're just not as worth the same amount of money as the others. That's why I'm giving this DLC pack C tier. Moving into the second faction DLC pack, we have the Furious Wild DLC pack. These guys stay in 3 out of the 5 campaign packs in Total War 3 Kingdoms, which include the base game Rise of the Warlords, A World Betrayed, and the Fates Divided campaign DLC packs. Honestly, it's way better than the Yellow Turban DLC packs, but it feels like it's a way to actually diverge content into the southern part of China. Before this pack's release, Sun Ce was able to go down to the south and essentially claim all this raised territory, which Creative Assembly then used for bandit factions and to fill in the southwestern China with tribal warriors. In this DLC pack, you get 4 new playable factions: Shamok, Mulu, Mengko, and Lady Zhurong, however the fuck you pronounce it. What I do love about this pack is that it's not a campaign pack, and it does what factions packs should do. It adds uniqueness to the game. You get 23 new units, including formidable animals such as elephants and tigers. Yes, elephants and tigers are in this DLC pack. There's a new tech tree in which you need to do missions to complete them, but some of them are a pain and you don't mind after a while. CA did a really amazing job at making each one of these factions feel unique. What they did here as well is that the diplomacy is somewhat of an option. You can vassalize tribal factions, demand tribute, declare war, and make peace with other imperial factions. Unfortunately, even though every single playable faction is so unique, it all feels like a different person but with the same sense of purpose style. Meaning your goal the entire game is to unite the tribes, which can be done pretty easily. By turn 15, either 90% of the tribes are confederated or have been dissolved and merged by warfare. It's not the biggest rush to get, and by turn 25, the 4 unique factions will be fighting each other until one remains. However, each faction does get their own new unique units, so that's a plus. But other than that, I'm giving this pack A tier. Coming into our first campaign DLC pack, we have the Mandate of Heaven DLC pack. Usually prequels are my thing, like Star Wars, The Hobbit, for example. However, this is one of those times where the prequel just was not it. I'll say it plainly, this DLC pack absolutely sucks. It is probably the worst DLC pack I have ever experienced in my entire time playing this game. This campaign brings you back to 182 CE, 8 years before the 190 CE Rise of the Warlords base campaign. This campaign brings you right before the Yellow Turban Rebellion broke out, when the Han Empire still maintained its authority over China. There's 6 new warlords to choose from in this DLC pack, however 3 of them are Yellow Turban Rebellion brothers and the other notable one is the Emperor. Yes, you can play as the Emperor. In this pack, however, the Emperor and the Yellow Turban Bros are the only enjoyable picks for this campaign with decent campaign mechanics. However, the Yellow Turban start for each brother is extremely difficult, as in about turn 30, you'll be fighting a full stack of every conceivable faction in the game known to man. At around turn 8, you're forced to fight in the Alliance War or the Turban Rebellion. However, completing some of the first missions given to you, you can recruit other Yellow Turban factions to rise during the peak of tension. These factions being the warlords of the base Yellow Turban DLC pack. However, when I recruit Gong Du and he spawns in on his side of the map, he would just sit there AFK the entire campaign. The other actually laid out character is Emperor Ling. At the start of the campaign, Emperor Ling is forced into a really hefty situation. You have one full stack army, 50,000 gold in your deposit, and about 40 people in your court. Amazing, right? Wrong. Your one full stack army is forced into battle round 1 and it takes 20 turns to replenish back to full. Your 50k gold is currently going into the negative and you'll be bankrupt in about 10 turns, and your court members are divided between bureaucrats, warlords, and the dynast. The bureaucrats are basically like a rat infestation and you have to remove the bureaucrats and replace them with either warlords or dynasts, the other two giving their own separate perks out. Now, the court's thing doesn't sound that bad. I just didn't mention that you also have to gain some sort of influence to remove one bureaucrat from office, on average taking about 30 turns to get down to a decent start. By the time you're done, majority of the Yellow Turban War is about 90% over and you've won your campaign by doing nothing. F tier. If the Mandate of Heaven did everything wrong, A World Betrayed did everything right. A World Betrayed is exactly what kind of DLC I want to see Creative Assembly put into their games. This DLC pack comes in right after Lu Bu kills Dong Zhuo and betrays the warlord Cao Cao. This campaign introduces 13 new factions, and even some of the pre-existing ones get another follow the story plot guide. In addition to this, each warlord also gets a bit more territory and a few forms already pre-researched. The most notorious faction to play in this campaign is the infamous Lu Bu and Sun Ce. Lu Bu, you know, the warrior that you can send to the wolves and return leading the back, that Lu Bu. Lu Bu starts out running from Chen or Cao Cao to evade being defeated early on. Eventually, you can choose to either fight Cao Cao or follow the story and escape to Liu Bei, where if you are given the opportunity, you can follow the story again and betray Liu Bei. Lu Bu's first 10 moves are almost predetermined, but after that, you're chilling. Lu Bu's overpoweredness brings in a mechanic I don't necessarily like, but it makes sense. Essentially, Lu Bu is a warrior, not a governor, and at the base game, he gets 20% corruption, satisfaction decreases, and some other stats I'm too lazy to research. But he brings in 3 more mechanics with this. 1, he brings in his Troy Achilles styled I am the one true warrior mechanic. He also brings in a momentum mechanic. His final feature is his mercenary mechanic feature, where other factions can hire you to be at war with another faction for a given amount of terms for a given amount of coin. Now, the other notable faction that I mentioned earlier was Sun Ce. Started out, you're vassalized by Yuan Shu, but eventually as you follow the story, you don't become vassalized and end up in a prolonged war with Yuan Shu. Sun Ce's early game is heavily snowbally, where there are predetermined enemy provinces and territories you must capture, and by doing so, you unlock 1 or 2 specified unique characters that will join your court and help you fight against the ever-growing Yuan Shu. Just like the Achilles-styled mechanic Lu Bu has, Sun Ce has something similar. Sun Ce's main mechanic is called Reckless Luck, where you being reckless keeps your reckless meter alive, and if it runs out, Sun Ce dies. I don't really enjoy the mechanic that much. I'm a build it up, be patient kind of player, but there are players that are like this that love this faction's feature. This DLC pack is amazing nonetheless, and honestly is a game-changing DLC for this game. S tier. Coming up next is the Fates Divided Campaign DLC pack. I have to say this is also a really solid campaign pack Creative Assembly took out. They kept the historical aspects to these campaign packs with the historicalized clash between the childhood best friends, Cao Cao and Yuan Shao. This campaign DLC puts you in the year 200 CE, 10 years after the beginning of the base game Rise of the Warlords campaign. The main focus factions are of course Cao Cao and Yuan Shao, both having unique starting positions with being extremely well developed. Cao Cao having the much larger portion of land than Yuan Shao, and Yuan Shao having the allies and Playing as Yuan Shao, you have to work to stop Cao Cao from becoming the biggest threat and stopping your ambition, and it goes to show. Other than these two, you can also play as Mo Dong, Liu Bei, Sun Ce, and a new character in the west, Liu Zhong. Now, although I do somewhat enjoy this campaign pack, the pack itself is rushed and it is totally incomplete feeling. This is also where I believe they added in Cao Cao's scheming mechanics, which I personally do not enjoy at all. There's not much to say about this pack, as there's almost zero to little depth in this pack, and its replayability is not as high as I would say A World Betrayed, but definitely more than the rest of the DLC packs mentioned. This one is uneasy for me, however, I'm giving it a C tier because I do enjoy playing as Yuan Shao in this DLC pack. Lastly, we have the 8 Princes DLC pack. I had to research the lore when I bought this pack so I could feel more involved in playing this campaign DLC. Essentially in lore, the Sima clan takes over Cao Cao's Jin dynasty, and when these 8 brothers' fathers passed away, they all tried to manipulate the emperor, but one by one ended up dying. Sad story, but you don't get that here. In this campaign, it starts out in 291 CE, essentially 91 years after the Fates Divided campaign took place. You get to play as one of the 8 Sima princes with their own unique mechanics and new troops, including cataphracts. This DLC pack has its own noble support mechanic, which works like public order, except it's completely different and a bit complicated to explain in one video. What I can say is that this campaign is a good style of Rome 2 grand campaign feel, meaning that the story isn't there and all the factions feel rather bland even though unique. There's an alignment factor you can use for this DLC, but again, I don't want to get into it. This DLC pack is extremely boring for myself, and the replayability is about 80 turns in a Sima Yong, and then I'm not touching it for another 6 months. Truly a shameful DLC pack, but better than some others up here. B tier.